Hello and welcome to NexTalks. I'm Nex, and this is where I talk. Today we're talking about important work. The work you do on yourself is the most important work you will ever do. So let's start with one of my personal favorites, and that is daily meditation. I've talked about this a little bit in my previous episodes, but I haven't really dove deep into all the different benefits and the science behind this. So I'm going to be citing an article I found today online that's written by Matthew Thorpe and Rachel Link and medically reviewed by Dr. Marnie White. And this article does a great job breaking down some of the benefits of meditation. There's even more than we're going to cover here today, and it also cites a lot of the studies that back this up. And I'll include the link to this article in the description of this podcast. Up first, we have stress reduction. We know that we live stressful lives. We have more stimulus to our senses than ever before in human history. We have all sorts of toxins in our environment and in our foods that we don't even fully understand. We don't know how they interact with each other. We have stressful relationships. We have access to more relationships and more human interaction than ever before in history. And we have stressful jobs, stressful lives in terms of finances, stress to our bodies. Sometimes our bodies are stressed out by not getting stressed enough in terms of not getting enough exercise and spending too much time sitting. So it's easy to come up with a big long list of all of the things that stress us out. But what can we do to counter that? There are a lot of things that we can do outside of meditation to decrease the amount of stress to our bodies, our minds, and our spirits, but meditation is a powerful tool in this toolbox. When we're stressed, our body releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that is inversely related to testosterone. When our cortisol increases, our testosterone decreases, and vice versa. Testosterone is a hormone that's related to greater levels of confidence and even improved performance. So anything we can do to decrease the amount of cortisol floating around in our bloodstreams is going to be beneficial to our performance and to our stress levels. Anything you can do that increases your testosterone is going to help this as well. So exercise and something called power posing are powerful tools that you can use to increase your testosterone and stop cortisol in its tracks. I borrowed the idea of power poses from some research that was done by Amy Cuddy, and she has a great TED Talk that I will put in the description of this podcast as well. And if you're not familiar of the effects of stress and cortisol on your body, the list is pretty long, but it can disrupt your sleep, it can disrupt your ability to think clearly and focus, it can increase your blood pressure and other cardiovascular related diseases. And what's amazing is that 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation, generally from what I found, most of the research around meditation is centered around an 8-week program where they meditate every day between 15 to 20 minutes a day. They actually found that when people were meditating every day for 8 weeks, it decreased the inflammatory response of their body to stress. So this has shown to be beneficial for stress-related conditions and inflammatory conditions such as IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and fibromyalgia. And I know for a fact that someone out there listening to this suffers from at least one, if not all, of those conditions. So if this isn't enough to convince you to start daily meditation, don't worry, we're just getting into this. Up next, we have anxiety. High levels of stress can lead to high levels of anxiety, so it makes sense that something that decreases your stress is going to decrease your anxiety. But there's a lot of science and research to back this up, especially with people with very high levels of anxiety. Those individuals have the most dramatic results from incorporating a daily meditation practice. And what all of this means is that in just 8 weeks from now, within 2 months, your life could be dramatically improved just by setting aside 15 to 20 minutes each day to just meditate. I mean, that's gotta be one of the easiest prescriptions you'll ever be written in your life. You just have to sit there and not do anything for 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, doesn't get much better than that, if you ask me. So this helps people with generalized anxiety disorder. This has helped people with chronic pain, and this goes for depression as well. So it decreases symptoms of depression. It even decreases people's actual experience of pain. Because they're more mindful and living in the present moment, it might be easier for them to maintain perspective over their pain, over their anxiety, over their depression. And the same thing goes with job-related stress. They had people who were working at different jobs use a meditation app, and they found that they experienced less job-related distress. And it's probably for the same reasons. When they're at work, when they're experiencing stressful events, they experience it, they're in the moment, and when they're away from it, they're able to focus on every other part of their lives and do better at not carrying that stress around with them and processing it even through their daily meditation. The way I like to think about meditation is it's like a time to digest your mental food. There's so many thoughts, there's so many feelings, there's so many sensations and stimulus that come into our minds every single day, every single second, every single minute. We need time to digest that, just like we need time to digest our food. And meditation allows us the space to do just that. Another great tool I strongly suggest that you check out is yoga. Yoga has a lot of different elements to it, most of which have to do with meditation, but it also incorporates asana, which is the Sanskrit word for posture or position or pose, and it involves movement. So you kind of incorporate meditation into a movement practice that for many people doesn't feel as intense or rigorous as exercise, although with the appropriation and westernization of yoga practices, there are plenty of yoga programs out there that will give you quite the exercise and get your heart rate up and get you sweating and get you breathing heavy so you can get the cardio benefits as well. But you can certainly do things like restorative yoga or hatha yoga or yin yoga, and much more subtle and relaxing practice than maybe some of the others that you see on like a YouTube or you might see at your local yoga studios. So ask if they have beginners yoga, something more gentle, something more restorative that's focused on stress reduction, not just on working out. Because yoga asana, when practiced in a safe, healthy, balanced way, can also reduce pain. Back pain, joint pain. It can make you stronger, it can make you more flexible, it can lead to healthier joints, better balance, and because it's so often incorporated with elements of meditation, you get the meditative benefits too. Decreased stress, improved focus, improved memory, general feelings of wellness, self-betterment, self-confidence, self-improvement, and even euphoria. One of the theories around why meditation improves mood and decreases negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative self-talk is not only because of the specific practices we utilize in meditation, which might involve something like positive affirmations, positive self-talk, etc., but it's also physically related to the decrease of an inflammatory chemical known as cytokines, which seem to also be released into the body alongside cortisol when we're stressed. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, awareness is the first step towards change. You can't expect your life to change if you don't change. And you're not going to be able to change anything if you're not aware of anything that needs changing. So by meditating and taking time to unplug, stop receiving new stimulus, and to just digest that mental material, you'll start to become aware of things that you may have never noticed before. Different places that you hold tension in your body. Different thoughts that you have that you didn't even realize were repeating over and over in your mind. I think journaling is a great supplemental tool to meditation. So after you meditate, doing some journaling, it could be one sentence, it could be a whole book that comes out of you, but just write down a little something that you got after your meditation. Maybe write down your affirmation, your mantra, something that came to you, something you realized. It can help you to process some of the things that you experience in your meditative process. Because once you become aware of something you want to change, then you can start to change it. So if you notice some kind of negative thought that you have repeatedly, you can replace that thought with a positive thought. If you start to notice somewhere where you hold a lot of tension in your body, you can change your posture. You can soften that muscle. You can relax and release. You can start inquiring into your mind, Why might I feel this way? Why might I be thinking these thoughts? Where does this come from? Has someone said this to me before? Did I come up with it on my own? What made me think it in the first place? Who would I be without that thought? What if I didn't believe this? What would I rather think? By doing practices like this, they found that you can improve your level of self-efficacy. So this is your ability and your confidence in yourself to be able to change your life and to change your circumstances. They found that meditation improves your attention span, so you can actually focus on things longer, and they found it improves your accuracy, so you actually perform better, which makes sense because you're clear-headed. You've digested some of that mental activity, and now you can focus and be more clear on what you're doing. I also came across a study that found that only 13 minutes a day was necessary to notice some of these benefits to attention span. They also found that it seems to reverse some of the brain's patterns and neurological pathways that are associated with wandering minds, worrying, and poor attention span. There have been some amazing studies done on memory and how elderly people who have age-related memory loss can actually improve their memory through doing different various meditative techniques, and that it can be helpful for people struggling with dementia and even the caregivers of people struggling with dementia or just taking care of aging parents in general. Amazingly, they've found that meditation can even improve kindness, particularly a type of meditation I really love called loving kindness meditation. Not only does it improve kindness towards others, but even kindness towards yourself, compassion towards yourself and others, acts of kindness, pro-social behaviors, and even just socializing in general. They found that people were able to better manage their anxiety and depression because from meditation, they maybe thought of somebody that they hadn't reached out to in a long time, someone they really loved. Particularly focusing on loving kindness meditation will bring thoughts of various people that you can reach out to and love on quite regularly. So it improves the amount of social contact people have, and we know there's a connection between the level of social support and social networks people have and their mental health. And they've even found that meditation can be helpful with addiction, which is a really powerful mental health issue that many people struggle with. As you meditate, you become more aware of things that maybe trigger your addiction or causes of that addiction. It also seems to improve your ability to control yourself. This is also relevant for addictions around food, not just drugs. Really any kind of addiction. They've even found that meditation can decrease your blood pressure, particularly if you have higher blood pressure and if you're a little bit older. So if you have a healthy blood pressure, it's not going to lower it to a dangerously low level. But if you have high blood pressure, you absolutely should start meditating today. They have found that meditation appears to control blood pressure by relaxing the nerve signals that coordinate heart function, blood vessel tension, and the fight or flight response, which also could be related to something I've been hearing more about called adrenal fatigue, which may lead to burnout and feelings of low energy in general. So if you want to start meditating and you're not sure where to start, you can find a lot of free resources online. There's a lot of great books about meditation, and I also have an 8-week meditation course available for sale on my website, NexJuice.com. Just go to the shop page. So we covered meditation. The next thing I want to talk about is sleep hygiene. So having good sleep hygiene means that you are getting healthy sleep, and this is one of the most important things for health of your entire being. They have found that being deprived of sleep can be more detrimental and actually cause more brain cells to actually die than starvation. So it's more important to sleep than it is to eat. Although, obviously, both are important. And please eat healthy foods. I'm not going to be getting into that on today's episode, but pay attention to the ingredients of your food and eat real foods. Stop eating fake food. Maybe you're already sleeping great, and that's great for you. You probably don't need to change a thing. But if you're struggling with your sleep hygiene, there's a lot that you can do to improve it. One of which is meditation. So meditation is also found to improve your sleep. Ideally, the first thing that you want to do is figure out how much sleep you need on average. And this can be really hard because many of you don't really get to pick when you go to sleep or when you wake up. Maybe you have kids, maybe you have a job, Maybe you have a tight schedule and you don't get to pick how many hours of sleep you're going to get. But I would strongly encourage you to start modifying your life to allow you the space to sleep as much as you need. And in order to find out, you're going to need a few weeks to really figure this out. So if you can, let's just imagine that you're able to do this for those of you who can. You're going to stop setting an alarm. You're going to start going to sleep at the exact same time every single night. If you don't fall asleep right away, it's okay. Just make yourself get into bed at a certain time each night. Give yourself a bedtime just like you would a child, and you're going to just let yourself sleep as long as you need to. Then you're going to let yourself wake up naturally. So however long you feel like you need to sleep, you're going to keep sleeping, and you're going to wake up when you're good and ready to wake up, when you feel fully rested. These first few days, you're just going to be catching up on sleep because chances are you are sleep deprived. So that's not really going to be the average amount of sleep you normally need. You might be sleeping a lot during that time, and that's okay. That's totally normal. After the first few days, maybe even a week, you'll start to notice a pattern. You're going to start sleeping a pretty average amount every night. The average amount is between 7 and 9 hours per night. Yours might be longer and yours might be shorter. They've found that this seems to be genetically linked, and there's not really much we can do to change how much sleep we need, but it's important to know that amount so that you can work to get that amount every night that you're able to from this point forward. So once you know how much sleep you need, chances are you have a time you need to be awake. So you need to be asleep that many hours before that alarm goes off in the morning. And it might take you a little while to fall asleep. They've actually found that it takes the average person only 7 minutes to fall asleep. Some of you are taking like an hour to fall asleep, and there's a lot of different reasons that could be. So if it takes you an hour to fall asleep right now, start going to bed an hour before you need to be asleep. But there's going to be some tricks and tools that you can use to try to shorten that amount of time so you can go to bed just a few minutes basically before you need to be asleep. And that bedtime is going to be step 1 in your sleep hygiene. Knowing what time you need to go to bed and then making sure you go to bed at that time every night is the first step. There's a lot of other things that you can do. One is limit the amount of screen time that you have before you go to bed. So about an hour before bed, you should be unplugging. No more watching TV, no more looking at your phone. You can read books, you can journal, you can do art, you can make music, you can do a lot of things still during this time, but the screens really mess with your brain's hormones. It messes with your melatonin. It confuses your brain as to what time of day it is and whether or not you should be going to sleep soon. Because before the invention of electricity, we just kind of based everything off of the sun. And some studies have shown that the angle of the sun in the sky actually helps to regulate our melatonin by just being outside. So getting outside more frequently is great. Unplugging and dimming lights. Also, you can use like blue blocker glasses to keep the blue light in particular out of your eyes before bed. All of this can help to start shift your body and your brain into a more restful state before you go to bed. So I mentioned some things that you can do before bed that don't involve screens. Figure out what works for you. Start to have a bedtime ritual. Maybe you do some gentle stretches. Maybe you change into some pajamas. You brush your teeth. You wash your face. Whatever that is for you, establish this bedtime ritual and make sure that you start doing it early enough that you're able to have it all done and be in bed at the right time, because all of this ritualistic behavior and this routine is going to start shifting your body and your brain into that sleep mode. It's going to know, okay, we're getting ready for bed, and it's going to start activating everything it needs to activate, or maybe I should say deactivating what it needs to deactivate in order to let you completely unwind and fall asleep smoothly. Avoid foods and drinks that disrupt your sleep. So this is alcohol, caffeine, citrus fruits, spicy food, fatty or fried foods, big heavy meals. They're all really heavy on the digestion, and they can make it hard for you to fall asleep, especially if they cause gas or discomfort. All of these things have been proven to disrupt sleep, especially if you're struggling with that. Maybe you're finding that, you're having a glass of wine too close to bedtime. Just get rid of that completely. You don't need that, and it's not helping you in any way. Alcohol is trash in general, so I mean, if you want to drink in moderation here and there, have it with dinner early enough in the night that it's processed and mostly out of your system by the time you're going to bed. Also, exercise. So we've talked about all the different benefits of exercise. I know you hear this so much, but you may not think about the fact that exercise can help you sleep better. Regular exercise has been proven to help you sleep more smoothly. Part of it might be because you're exerting some of that energy. When you don't move your body enough, you're left with a lot of excess energy at the end of the day. And if you're not going to move your body, a lot of times your amazingly magical, wise body and being will just convert that into mental energy, and you'll have a really hard time quieting the mind, which also can be helped through meditation, but the benefits of moving your body cannot be overstated. However, you don't want to exercise too close to bedtime usually, because oftentimes it'll boost your energy. So it's important to do that early enough in the day. Generally, one of the first things in the day should be exercise, because it's something that's so easy to procrastinate. And like we talked about on a previous episode, your willpower is much lower later in the day, so it's much harder to push yourself to go to the gym and get your exercise in at that point. So I had a lot more planned for this week's episode, but I want to leave you guys with that. Meditation and sleep. These are so important. Remember, the work you do on yourself is the most important work you will ever do. I cannot say that enough. Please prioritize yourself. If you're still not doing it after having all of the data, all of the science, knowing that it can improve and change your life, ask yourself why it's important. Why should you do it? Why is your life important? Who's counting on you? Who's going to be benefited besides you? If you don't have that self-value, that self-esteem, that self-worth yet, think about the people you do value. Think about the people you love. Think about the people you're trying to attract into your life. Maybe it's not a specific person, but more of a type of person, an idea of the type of people you want in your life. What kind of people are they attracted to, and how can you attract them? By being the healthiest, best version of yourself. You can ask yourself, what would the best version of me do? What would the version of me that I want to be, what would they do? And start trying to frame all of your behaviors and thoughts and activities through what this ideal version of yourself would do. I really hope this helps, and I hope that you've enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, please consider supporting at nextjuice.com, NexJuice.com, and clicking the support button. Thank you so much for listening to NexTalks. I'm Nex. I talked. I hope you liked it. If you want to hear me talk about something else, or you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation about meditation and sleep, or anything I talked about today, you can leave it in the comments or reach out to me on social media.